You are Locked On College Basketball, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, Andy, we said it. You have actually already written about it, even on Wednesday as the news was coming out, that there is a temporary restraining order that is allowing all these multi-time transfers to be immediately eligible for at least this 2-week period. What have you learned? What do we need to know? Give it to us.
Yeah, like we said, we wanted to timestamp this show. And so as we're talking right now, it's a little before 6 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesday evening. So that is as far updated as we have right now. Of course, you are all listening to this later than that, and perhaps there's been some new updates. But as we're talking right now, every multi-time transfer who has been awaiting eligibility from the NCAA or who has been told they are not eligible from the NCAA, those players are now immediately eligible until December 27th. The NCAA has come out and said they are not going to or can't really do anything to prevent those players from being able to play in that period of time. The thing that we don't know is what's going to happen on December 28th. We don't know whether there will be some kind of rule change where those players are no longer eligible, whether they will then be granted eligibility for the rest of the season. If they play in this 2-week period of time and then are not eligible anymore, will that burn a year of eligibility? Like, those are all the questions that many people are asking right now that, again, as we're recording right now, we don't have answers to. And it has made this situation murky and confusing. And I think there are many larger conversations that can be had when we are not running short on time on the podcast to discuss, like, whether the government should be getting involved in this in the first place, and whether, the overall viability of multi-time transfers. I can kind of see both sides of, players should have some freedom to move schools if they want to. And like, regular students are not, privy to this. And if they're in a good academic standing, why are we telling them they can't transfer, versus coaches who don't want to have to rebuild a roster every year? Like, there are a lot of nuance to this conversation. I certainly don't think that we love that a mid-season decision is putting these coaches and these players in a situation of having to determine, should I, like LSU, again, as we're recording this, the latest report that we have for LSU, this comes from Glenn West on Twitter. He's a writer at 24/7 Sports covering LSU, has said that Jalen Cook is not going to play. Jalen Cook, of course, started his career at LSU, was a 2-time All-AAC player at Tulane, averaged 20 points per game last year for them, is now back at LSU. In theory, this rule says that he can play tonight, again, as we're recording this. By the time you're listening to this, it sounds like he's not going to play. But what does that mean for Primo Spears at Florida State? What does this mean for Brandon Murray at Ole Miss, a team that's currently undefeated and could be adding Murray after recently adding Musa Cisse? What does this mean for West Virginia, who is so desperate for help in the backcourt and could, in theory, get both Raekwon Battle and Noah Farrakhan eligible, along with Kerr Kriisa, who is separate from all of this, is going to come back from his suspension.
That's right.
3 guards joining West Virginia in the matter of a day is a huge change for them. So there's this, but the question is, are these programs going to be willing to play these players over this 2-week period of time? And the article I wrote was at USA Today. We'll link to it in the show notes. That's my way of telling you to link to that in the show notes.
Making a note right now, Andy. Making a note right now.
But most of these teams, even the Power 5 teams that are gaining players, they have 2 or 3 games in this 2-week period of time, and a lot of them are not good games. Typically, teams right around Christmas aren't playing super marquee matchups. So it's like, if you're Utah, do you bring Devion Smith back to play Bellarmine in Utah Valley? If you think you might be risking him losing an entire year of eligibility, probably not. So I think those are the questions that all these coaches now very suddenly have to make quick decisions on. And I sympathize with them. I sympathize for the players. Obviously, some of them may get a chance to play when they otherwise wouldn't have, which is very great for them. But this is not how this should have happened. It shouldn't have happened this way. Even like the Efton Reed and Musa Cisse situations that happened mid-season, like this.
Aziz Bendago.
Yeah, that's a great one too. And Cincinnati's got another guy on this list as well, Jameel Reynolds, who could be a huge impact for them too. Like, it shouldn't be happening this way. I think that's very clear. I don't think there's any debate on that, but it is. And now these coaches and players have to figure out what the heck they want to do and whether they are willing to risk potentially only getting to play a guy for 2 or 3 games.
Well, and then there's the whole thing of, like, if you're only going to have him, whoever it is, for 2 weeks, do you want to risk messing with your chemistry?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, maybe there's the chance that it gets extended further or whatever it is. But are you willing to risk that? To me, if I'm a head coach, maybe I play them mop-up minutes with the bench warmers, but I'm certainly not going to rely on these guys for a period of 2 weeks.
But let's use the Ole Miss situation. Sorry to cut you off.
No, go.
Brandon Murray, fantastic player, double-digit scorer in both of his previous stops. For Ole Miss, I mean, you want to stay undefeated as long as you can. And Brandon Murray is the kind of player who immediately helps impact your program. Like, yes, it would suck to have him for 3 games, 2 or 3 games, and then have him be ineligible again. But like,
do you need him to beat Cal?
Right? Yeah. That's the thing. Yeah, they got Cal, and I think they got Troy in their next game. So it's like you don't need him for those games. But are you willing to keep the streak going, to keep playing well? Like, there's a lot of questions that these teams have to figure out.
Well, Andy, obviously lots more we're going to have to unpack about this as more and more news comes out. We'll cut in and do something short if we need to, or follow up with it on Friday's episode. I'd love, Andy, as you record with Coach Gerlofson, to hear his thoughts and opinions on this whole thing. All right, folks, that's it. We're so excited for this loaded weekend of college basketball. If you want to come hang out with us and talk about it in real time this weekend, come join the Locked On College Basketball Discord server. Would love to chat with you there. Please make sure to subscribe to the show on video and audio. Leave us a rating. Like it, smash that like button so we know you are here. Comment on the show as well. As always, and we joked about earlier, apologies to the Lawyer family. Let's go Wildcats, and I guess today Tigers as well. And until Friday, peace.